Thank you very much for tuning in. So we got the line that went out on the 3rd of September 2023. I'm going to feature John's call. Matt has just thanked him for calling in because he apparently is calling in with a reason to believe in God, and that is exactly what Matt wants to hear. So let's have a listen to the beginning of the call, see how it goes, and then we're going to skip a bit of it towards the end.
Okay, well, I want to say thank you as well, Matt, and for doing these shows because, yeah, I do believe you're a critical thinker. And the last caller, it was hard for me just to stay on the line listening to, like, the nonsensical ignorance of people sometimes. Like, I don't.
Now, that's a bad idea. It's a really bad idea for a theist to call in and say to Matt Dillahunty, of all people, that the last call was nonsensical. Especially if he's a theist, because which call from a theist do we hear? How often do we hear calls from theists which are sensible, decipherable, logical, and rational? You get my point.
People easily get confused. Let's not talk about the last caller. Let's get to your call.
Okay, let me see. God, I want to start off by saying God loves you, and he's been talking to you your whole life, and you know it.
Well, it's not a good start, is it? He's preaching God loves you. You don't know it, but he does love you. He's been talking to you your whole life. It's a bit preachy already.
Whoa. Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to give you all the time you need.
Okay.
But I am going to pause to get clarification because you started to give a definition of God. You're like saying God is, and then you stopped. And then you said, God loves you. He's been talking to you your whole life and you know it. No, I fucking don't know it. Stop asserting what I do and don't know. Okay. That's not going to get you anywhere. And it's just going to make this messy. But it would be nice if you started by defining God, what God is that you're talking about.
Okay,
and then you can go on
God
to tell me then when I finish my sentence, you can go on to tell me how it is that you know that God loves anybody and how we're supposed to know it. So go ahead.
Okay, so God, first and foremost, is the truth and the foundation of all truth. And I don't know if you agree with me or that, but most religions claim that to be true. I don't know if you're aware of that.
No, 2 + 2 = 4 is true. I don't see how you can define God as truth or the foundation of all truth, because truth isn't the foundation of all truth. And truth, I'm presuming that you think God is a being, like a thinking being, right?
Well, homogeny. I do want to get into reality and its homogeny and fractal nature of reality.
Okay.
I think
John,
yes.
Is God a being?
Manifest.
Is God a thinking agent? Is God a thinking agent? Okay.
Yes, he is.
Truth is not a thinking agent. Truth is the label we put on something when it has the qualities of accurately representing reality. So when you're going to find God, it means nothing for you to say God is truth and the foundation of truth. That's sophistry. Tell me God's characteristics. So, like, God is a thinking agent.
I think God is a part of that thing that we consider to be nothingness. It's like a paradox. It's a great paradox.
No, John. Wow,
this always seems to happen when people are asked to define God. God is truth. God is love. God is that which we've always yearned for. There's nothing. There are no real sort of properties there. I think I would have more respect for somebody who took the Bible literally and said, well, God is an old man with a white beard sitting in the sky. You can't see him, but he is up there in some kind of other dimension. He's got blue eyes. I don't know. He's got gray hair, or he's got white hair. He wears a majestic robe. I mean, at least there we would have some properties, and then we could start talking about it. But all we get are these sort of vague, sort of abstractions, which don't really seem to be defining anything much at all. So let's see if he goes anywhere further with it.
I really would love to get to something, but it's like now you're saying God is a part of the thing that we consider to be nothingness.
Yes.
I have no clue what that is, but nothingness is at best something that does not exist, could not exist, has no properties. So when you think of nothingness, nothingness has no qualities, features, or parts. So God can't be a part of the thing that we consider to be nothingness because nothingness has no parts. So would you like to try to define God again?
Well, the reason I bring up this concept of nothingness is because it is like a space of emptiness, and space itself is a reflection of this this thing that I'm referring to right now. Like space is not truly empty that we're in front of, but there is.
This is why these discussions, when people call into the atheist experience, they never go anywhere, because people can't define God. They can't define the God which they're trying to prove. And if you can't define what something is, to an extent that the person you're trying to convince that this thing exists, that they can at least conceptualize it, how can you possibly provide evidence for it?
Yes.
Space is not nothingness. Nothingness is a philosophical. Sorry, what?
There is emptiness within space, and those two things.
Emptiness.
And can you imagine? He called in saying the previous call is nonsensical. Well, if anything is nonsensical, I think that what we're listening to now from John certainly fits that description.
This is not nothingness. Emptiness is not nothingness, and space is neither empty nor nothingness. Nothingness is the philosophical property of nothing, having no properties, no parts, no nothing. Now, are you able to define God at all in a useful way where we can discuss it?
Yes, I've defined God
and
as
then let's do that. Let's start by telling me what you think God is, and then we'll go on to what you think about God, because I really would like to know why we should believe in a God. And what you've given me so far is God is truth, God's the foundation of truth, God is a thinking agent that's part of this thing that we call nothingness. This is a bunch of nonsensical gobbledygook.
See what I mean? Now, you see, this is why I say, and I do believe that I can argue quite convincingly, that alien abductees are far more credible than theists. Firstly, because if anybody's being abducted by aliens, at least don't appeal to the supernatural. The stories that alien abductees tell are actually full, quite often, with rich detail. They tell us what they look like, they tell us what the spacecraft looked like, etc., etc. And what we get from theists is always this abstract, nothingness, God is the void, etc., etc. It's nothing that we can conceptualize and imagine in order to be convinced that it actually does exist.
Find God and then tell me why we should believe it. Okay, well, if you want like a scientific perspective, I would say God is a self-forming, infinite conscious being. We've had this conversation before.
Okay, so you're saying God is a self-forming, infinite conscious being, but infinites can't be actualized. So, and self-forming, I don't know what self-forming means. Did God create himself?
Infinities can't be actualized? Why do you?
No, they can't.
Why do you?
Infinities can't
what
be.
Makes you assume that?
Infinities can't be actualized because infinity is a concept and actualization is finite. Actualization can't be endless. But setting that aside, you have other problems here. What does self-forming mean?
The ability to construct, what is that called? Intelligent designs from randomness.
Okay, you're saying,
our perceived randomness.
hang on. You're saying that self-forming means having the ability to construct intelligent designs from nothingness?
No, from randomness.
Okay. John, you just described self-forming as having the capacity to construct intelligent designs from randomness.
Yes. Do you have a problem with that?
Yeah, I have loads of problem with it. That's a bunch of nonsense. That what?
Well,
How does that mean self-forming? And how do you determine that? So first of all, how do you determine that God can construct intelligent designs from randomness? But why on earth would you call that self-forming? That's not God forming self. That's just forming.
Well, theists often say that the universe couldn't create itself. But from what John is saying, God created himself. I presume that's what he means by self-forming.
God formed. I don't want to say himself because God's not a male or female. It's God is beyond,
itself.
Human.
How do you know that?
Because God's not limited to any one thing. Like,
how do you know that?
Your mind is limited. Like we are a reflection.
My mind is irrelevant, John. John, I'm asking you how you know these things you're claiming. Saying that my mind is limited is not an explanation for how you know. So how do you know these things about God?
By pure epiphany, the universe just gave me information. Like there's something you can know. Geniuses.
No, John. The universe did not just provide you an epiphany that warrants belief. You may have had an epiphany. I'm asking, you called in to say that you have reasons for why we should believe in God. If somebody suggested to you that the reason you should stop believing in God is because they've had an epiphany, would you accept that?
I actually have some beef with you because I can't connect with.
Okay, I'm going to mute you and I'm going to ask that question again because at no point did I ask, do you have beef with me, John? My question was, if someone told you you should stop believing in God, and when you asked for what reason should I stop believing in God, and they said it was because they had an epiphany, my question was, would you accept that as a reason to stop believing in God? That's the question.
Yes, after you did that prayer to make me
I've just had an epiphany. I've just had an epiphany, John. You should stop believing in God. Congratulations, you're now no longer believing in God.
Okay, I accept it. I'm going to follow not you now, Matt. You have.
Goodbye. You are either the world's worst troll, or you are too confused for me to continue talking to.
I think it's game over when somebody says that this is true because I had an epiphany. Then you could just say, well, I had an epiphany to the opposite effect. I had an epiphany that there is no God. You had an epiphany that there's a God. They cancel each other out. We're back to square one. Where do we go from here? So, yeah, it's an admission of defeat. But, yeah, so you get my point. He started off saying, oh, the last call was nonsensical. Halfway through, Matt said, well, your call is nonsensical. So, I don't know. Another utterly hopeless attempt to prove the existence of God. Okay, that's all for now. I'll be back again with another video soon. Bye for now.